Hello everyone. The following set of videos is going to be covering the employment topic for the course. And basically the employment topic is a broad category of several employment indicators we're going to be covering, and we're going to be linking the employment sector to the economy as a whole, GDP in particular, and give everybody an idea of why this is such an important category of economic indicators. So, to give us an idea of where we are, we know what the founding of economics is based upon. It's study of choice, and then we make choices within a specific system, an economic system. And one of the key characteristics of a free market system is supply and demand. That shows how market participants communicate with each other. And this communication, these choices take place within an economy, and the economy is measured by GDP. That's the value of all output produced within the nation. And the economy has a set of economic indicators that say something about the health of the economy. It says something about the past, present, and future of economic activity. And once we have this all set, we can discuss more. Is there anything we can do as a group, i.e. the government, to maybe shepherd the economy through some rough patches? And so we talk about macroeconomic policies. And basically, all of this is going to be discussed in the context of the business cycle, the ups and downs of economic activity. So the first thing we discuss when we talk about the employment is we got to talk about the pool of employment that the economy can draw from, and that pool of labor is measured by the labor force. And the labor force basically includes all people who are willing to work over the age of 16, and either they're looking for work or they actually have work. So people who are not employed and are not actively seeking work, they're not part of the labor force. And that's a very important point, because when people get discouraged after long, fruitless job searches, they may drop out of the labor force, meaning they stop looking. And when they stop looking, they're not actively participating. Therefore, we won't count them. But they still exist. If we don't count them, that may skew indicator data. It may skew the employment data, and it may make things look better than they really are. So the labor force is an economic indicator. And another economic indicator that comes from the labor force numbers is the participation rate. And that's basically the percentage of the over 16 population that's participating in the labor force. So let's take a look at this. I like this graphic. So what do you see here? You see this is the entire population of the United States in 2008. Now, of course, the population is not the labor force, because there are some people we don't count. Who don't we count in this labor force? Well, first of all, we don't count anybody who's under the age of 16. So that eliminates 68 million people of this 304 million. Another group that we don't include are 40 million retirees. They're not actively seeking work. Another relatively large group, about 20 million homemakers. These are stay-at-home mom, stay-at-home dads. They're not participating. Now, they're doing work. They're just not doing work for pay. Another group in school. This is basically college students. Full-time college students who are not working, they are not part of the labor force. Now we have this catch-all right here, 11 million. This 11 million is includes several groups of people. One, institutionalized people. Those are primarily people in prison. Another group that they do not include, sick and disabled. Another group, discouraged workers. These are people who were participating in labor force but just stop looking due to a fruitless job search. Taken all together, they add to 149 million. You take this 149 million, subtract it from 304, this is your labor force over here. And it's included three groups of people: the unemployed, the employed, and the armed services. Sometimes the armed services are dropped and we just talk about the civilian labor force, which is just the employed and the unemployed. And in 2008, there were 145 people employed, 8.9 million people unemployed. Now, to calculate the participation rate, you would take this group, this entire group, over the age of 16 population, and divide that by the labor force, and that would give you the labor force participation rate. And I have this right here. So this 244 million, that's the over the age of 16 population. This 155.5, that's the labor force, the employed and unemployed. This gives you a participation rate of 63.5%. And you can see the labor force grows, and it can grow due to population growth, or it could grow due to immigration. And you can see that starting at 2000, we're looking at 5 groups: United States, China, Europe, which is a whole host of countries, South Korea, and Japan. And we could see that from 2005 to 2050, the United States is the only economy that's predicted to have a growing labor force. All of these countries will show a declining labor force, even China. China's labor force is due to decline in size, in size by 2040. Japan, their labor force is already shrinking. And this means that if you got fewer people coming in the labor force, if you want to maintain economic growth, technology is going to have to take the place of fewer workers. And here's how the participation rate in the United States has changed over the years. You can see that in the 1950s, the participation rate was at around 60% compared to 67% in the 2000s. This is the primary difference: women. Women were not participating in as large numbers in this time frame as they are here. So this growth is primarily driven by women joining the labor force. And what's interesting is you see the first decline in labor force, in the participation rate, right before the dot-com bubble bursting, and then you see a steep decline during the 2008 recession. So your production, or let's say GDP growth, is limited by 2 factors: your factors of production, your resources, and technology. And so you could see how, in this particular case, how participation rates and labor force growth can impact this aspect of economic growth. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over a few other indicators, one of which is going to be unemployment, but that's going to be for the next video.